Jung on God, symbols, and the search for meaning. Why is it that in moments of despair we look upward? Why do people with no formal religious belief still speak to the sky, ask the universe for answers, or seek signs when logic fails? Carl Jung would say it's not superstition, it's not weakness, it's something far deeper, the psyche reaching for wholeness through the language of meaning. Jung was not a theologian, but few modern thinkers have had more to say about religion, God, and the soul. His views were not conventional. He did not promote any dogma, but he believed passionately that the human psyche is religious by nature. And he believed that in losing our connection to myth, ritual, and symbol, modern humanity has become spiritually starved. To understand Jung's view of God, you have to forget for a moment the usual definitions. He did not debate whether God exists in the way a planet or an animal exists. For Jung, God is not a concept to be proven. God is an archetype, a deep psychic reality that arises from the collective unconscious. That doesn't make it imaginary. In fact, Jung would say the God archetype is more real than many things we can touch or measure. Why? Because it shapes behavior, evokes awe, organizes values, and fuels transformation. It's not about external belief. It's about inner experience. Jung spent decades studying myths, dreams, religious texts, and mystical visions across cultures. He noticed something remarkable. No matter the geography or history, humans have always created images of transcendence. From sun gods to sky fathers, from divine mothers to sacred animals, from mandalas to holy books, these are not arbitrary inventions. They are expressions of the psyche trying to make sense of itself and the universe. When Jung analyzed dreams, he frequently found religious symbols, even in people who claimed no faith. Crosses, circles, stairways, light from above, voices from within. He concluded that the religious impulse is not just cultural, it is psychological. But he warned, if this impulse is denied or repressed, it doesn't go away. It returns in distorted forms: fanaticism, addiction, ideology, nihilism. Because the soul cannot bear a vacuum. When traditional religion no longer satisfies, we turn to substitutes: celebrities, politics, technology, even therapy itself. We seek something to orient us, something to answer the big questions. Why am I here? What is suffering for? What does it mean to be alive? Jung didn't claim to have those answers, but he insisted that we must ask the questions, and that symbols are the language in which the soul replies. A symbol for Jung is not a sign. It is a living image that connects the conscious and unconscious. It points beyond itself, toward mystery, toward depth. Think of the cross, the lotus, the snake, the tree, the circle, the light, the descent and rebirth. These appear in dreams, in myths, in visions, not because we're told to see them, but because they arise spontaneously. They are the psyche trying to communicate something profound, something rational thought alone cannot contain. That's why Jung took religious experiences seriously, not because he believed in specific doctrines, but because he saw how transformative such experiences could be. When someone dreams of light filling a dark room, or a guiding voice in the forest, or a sacred figure offering a gift, it often marks a turning point in their life. The symbol unlocks something. It's not about theology, it's about integration. To Jung, the true function of religion was to aid the individuation process. Not to impose belief, but to provide structure, myth, and symbolic tools for navigating the inner world. He admired Christianity for its rich symbolism, its themes of death and rebirth, suffering and redemption, divine love and the fallen world. But he also criticized it for neglecting the dark side of the psyche, for splitting good and evil too neatly, and leaving the shadow unintegrated. This is why he was drawn to alchemy, to Eastern thought, to Gnosticism, to indigenous cosmologies. He believed that the true spiritual path must acknowledge both light and dark, God and the devil, creation and destruction, masculine and feminine, conscious and unconscious. He once wrote, "The paradox is one of our most valuable spiritual possessions. Only the paradox comes anywhere near to comprehending the fullness of life. That's not heresy, that's wholeness." Jung believed that the image of God evolves as human consciousness evolves. What we called God in ancient times may not suffice for the modern soul. He didn't want to replace religion with psychology. He wanted psychology to take its symbolic depth seriously. When someone says they no longer believe in God, Jung would ask, "What image of God did you reject? And what did that image represent to you?" He knew that often people had been taught a childish or rigid image of God, and when that image collapsed, they were left with nothing. But something deeper remained: the longing, the awe, the moral conscience, the sense of the sacred. He saw this in patients who described dreams of luminous figures, of voices that comforted them, of powerful forces guiding them through darkness. He saw it in moments of synchronicity that felt too meaningful to dismiss, in symbols that emerged from the unconscious with uncanny precision. And so for Jung, the spiritual path was not a matter of belief, but of experience. It meant descending into the unconscious, facing the shadow, reconciling the opposites, and along the way, encountering something greater than the ego, what he sometimes called the self, and what others might call God. He wasn't concerned with what you called it. He was concerned with whether you were in relationship with it. Because without that relationship, the psyche dries out. It becomes brittle, cynical, lost. He believed the soul must have mystery, must have ritual, must have meaning, not borrowed meaning, not imposed meaning, but meaning that emerges from your own depths through your own symbolic journey. That's why dreams matter, why myths matter, why symbols and sacred images persist. They are not decoration, they are instructions, maps for the soul. In the modern world, we often mock religion as outdated, but Jung would ask, and what have you replaced it with? Efficiency, entertainment, endless distraction. He saw that beneath our technological progress lies a spiritual crisis, a deep hunger for something eternal, something grounding, something real. He didn't tell people to believe in God. He told them to take their inner life seriously, to treat dreams as sacred texts, to view life as a symbolic journey, to ask not only what do I want, but what is being asked of me. Because the psyche, he believed, wants to grow. And growth is not just psychological, it is spiritual. Whether you call it God, the self, the soul, or simply mystery, it is there, waiting, not in the sky, but in the silence beneath your thoughts. Not in dogma, but in symbols. Not in answers, but in questions. So, let me leave you with this. What do you turn to when logic fails you? When pain arrives? When certainty disappears? Could it be that your soul is asking for something deeper than information? Something closer to transformation? Curious minds never stop. Subscribe to keep exploring.